All right, welcome to What's New with MunkiReport. I'm John, also known as Tuxedo. So if you're looking for Wi-Fi mobility client and stuff with Chris, that's over there. All right, so first of all, who here has MunkiReport set up? All right, that's a lot of people, that's almost everybody. Who here wants to have MunkiReport set up? Okay, who here has version 2 of MunkiReport? And who wants to go to version 3? You guys are all awesome. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm John. I'm a desktop engineer and MacAdmin within the Pittsburgh area. I'm responsible for writing over, or best known for writing over 20 MunkiReport modules, with many more on the way. So if you have a feature request, a bug, or enhancement for MunkiReport, I'll likely be the one who takes a crack at it or add to my ever-expanding list of things to work on. Currently, I'm hovering around 15 modules that I need to make or update, but I get around to them when I get around to them. You can reach me at Slack, Twitter, or GitHub, but the MacAdmin Slack is probably best. I typically hang out in the MunkiReport channel, so just pop on in and say, it's not working, or do this, and we'll take a look at it. All right, so what are we going to cover? We're going to take a general overview of what MunkiReport is and does, for those of you who may not know, but of course, most of you do know, followed by what's new with version 3 of MunkiReport. Then we'll go through the steps for upgrading to version 3, as well as some troubleshooting tips to help with the upgrade. Finally, we'll cover new modules, module changes, and how to make your own changes. Of course, as most of you already know what MunkiReport is, but for the viewers at home, we're going to take a brief overview of what it is and what it can do. MunkiReport is a PHP-powered web app that provides an interface to display all the data that is gathered by your Macs. Whether it's 20 or 20,000, MunkiReport is able to scale with your fleet and remain responsive and dependable. This is the dashboard. It's a configurable landing page that you can fill up with charts and widgets to show the data you want right up front. And of course, it comes in many different themes. I personally like the dark slate theme, but there's, I'd say, about 10 different themes you can pick from. Not only does it look great on desktop, it has a great responsive mobile view. All right, it has many widgets that can show nearly any bit of information that MunkiReport collects. Here's an example of a bar type widget, and it is showing the installed OS version on different Macs. This is useful because it lets you know what Macs need to be updated, what users need to be prodded, hey, get to the newest version, and you find those few Macs that are still running Lion and Mavericks and get them out of there. The blocks or colored block style widgets are great for showing the count of something, such as what kind of internal drive the Mac has, or statistics on caching server that is served out. In the upper widget there, you can see that 22 Macs have a SSD installed and 21 Macs have a hard drive. This module also shows blocks for Fusion and RAID drives if they are installed. The lower widget shows what a caching server has served out, and you can see that it's purged 459 megabytes of data from its cache, downloaded 150 megabytes from Apple, and it has served out 791 megabytes. Here's an example of a list widget. These kinds of widgets show the sum of different data points. They are what is used if there's more than a few data points instead of the colored block widgets. These widgets show a breakdown of different hardware models along with their count. Other widget types include the pie chart, line graph, and vertical bar chart. Because widgets are just bits of PHP, JavaScript, and HTML, they can show nearly anything imaginable. It doesn't even have to be data sourced from MunkiReport. It can show a live clock based on JavaScript, a live video feed from a webcam outside the door, or even an iframe from another web page. Pretty much anything at all. Through this wonderful power, the MunkiReport dashboard can be the one-stop dashboard for showing everything you need right at a glance. All right, so here we have a listing. They show data about many Macs in a searchable, sortable grid. You can export data to CSV, Excel, or copy it right to the clipboard. You can easily create your own listing to show exactly the data you want from using all the different the tables and columns within MunkiReport. Almost every module contains a listing. They aren't required, but they can be useful depending upon what kind of data the module collects. Client tabs show comprehensive information and statistics about a single Mac in your fleet. This is the client summary tab. It shows a quick overview of the Macs, such as when it last checked in, hardware operating system information, as well as time machine and Apple Remote Desktop. Then by clicking on the Show button in the upper left-hand corner of the client page, you'll have access to a multitude of additional information about the client. Clicking on any of those tabs will show you information about that module pertaining to your Mac. This example screenshot here has pretty much every module enabled. There is a setting that you can change so that it'll only show the modules you have enabled. For example, Deploy Studio. Not many people have that enabled anymore, so why show it? If you don't want to have the module enabled, you can tell MunkiReport to hide inactive modules, and it'll disappear from the Client tab and Listing menu. Because otherwise, the listing view gets longer and longer with each release. It was originally created a report on package installations and how Munki is running on endpoint Macs. Because it has since grown, it can now collect thousands of data points about the Macs in your fleet. The data it collects can be used for compliance reports, preventive hardware maintenance, troubleshooting, and growth predictions. Here are some of the data points that MunkiReport can collect. It can collect things such as connected USB devices, application usage, installed fonts, system voltages and temperatures, who's been logging in, iCloud accounts, bees, pretty much anything you want. All right, so MunkiReport is an open source project that is hosted on GitHub. It's created and maintained by Arjen van Bokhoven with more than 46 contributors and 95,000 lines of code. We're always looking for new people to contribute with fresh ideas and ways of gathering new data. If you're interested in the project, know some PHP, can translate MunkiReport into another language such as Russian or Chinese, or a good QA tester, join us in the MacAdmins Slack. We'd love to have you. The MunkiReport community is a wide-reaching global one. With experienced contributors around the world able to help, there's almost always somebody in the MunkiReport channel on MacAdmins Slack ready to provide pointers or help with problems. To join the MacAdmins Slack, visit macadmins.org to get an invite. If email is more your style, then there's the MunkiReport Google Groups mailing list. Bug reports, feature requests, and on all that stuff can all be found within MunkiReport's GitHub. There's also the wiki page, which you can update as you can find flaws with it or just read on it through and learn all about MunkiReport. Of course, you can always browse its different branches, its sources, and see upcoming commits to hopefully find out will that bug be fixed, will it finally get this information in there. It's all very exciting. Of course, don't forget to send Bokhoven homemade jams and beers as a token of appreciation for creating such a wonderful reporting suite. So what can you do to make MunkiReport even better? You can write your own modules, tweaks, and suggest changes. Then submit them as a pull request on GitHub. Many of MunkiReport's modules and enhancements have been driven and made by contributors. It's through them that we continue to make MunkiReport the best it can be. You can also test out new pull requests and modules in your MunkiReport. This allows the contributors to get valuable feedback on if a module is working correctly and what things may need to be changed before it is merged into the main MunkiReport branch. Don't forget to leave your feedback in the pull request on GitHub so that we know that it's been tested in someone else's environment, as well as if it works or if it doesn't work. And of course, when new beta releases are available, give them the spin in a development instance with a few of your clients reporting in to it. This allows bugs to be found and fixed before it's released as a final build to the overall public. The new ideas and ways of doing things are always welcomed. Post enhancements, feature requests to GitHub as an issue, or mention them in the MunkiReport channel on MacAdmins. Once you've gotten the hang of setting up your MunkiReport, making a module, or solving problems, it's always good to give back to the community. A good way of doing this is to help out others that may be stuck where you once were. The MunkiReport channel is the new central place for helping others, but Google Groups mailing list and GitHub issues are also good places to look. And all this hard work brings in great reviews, such as this one from Mikolai's boss at the University of Arts Helsinki. I think MunkiReport is the reporting tool that other reporting tools should be compared against. There are many tools on the market, especially on the Windows side, but very few are as good as MunkiReport. These reviews are awesome. Like Bokhoven loved this one. He was almost giddy with it. Some of these other reporting tools include Jamf, SAL, and Microsoft's SCCM. MunkiReport is different from Jamf and SCCM in that it is free and fully open source. There is a bit more initial setup and maintenance compared to the more turnkey reporting services, but it does come pre-configured with widgets and reports. In those previous screenshots, those are pretty much vanilla MunkiReport installs. I didn't have to create any reports, create any widgets, as you would with like Elastic Report. It's all just there and ready to go. So if you already have Munki running, then you have the experience needed to set up and install MunkiReport. Not only does it cover much more in-depth reporting than other Munki reporting software, its modular open source nature makes it easy to expand the functionality of MunkiReport into areas that it doesn't report on out of the box. Although its only limitation is it only reports on Mac clients because it was originally designed to report only on Munki. It's extremely flexible in when it comes to web servers. It'll run on pretty much anything that has PHP 7, such as Microsoft's Internet Information Services, Apache, and Nginx. You can even run it on a Raspberry Pi. MunkiReport is light on server resources. Because of this, it can exist on the same web server as Munki. Not only is it light on the server, it's light on the clients, with minimal information downloaded with each run, and often less than 1 megabyte uploaded on heavier runs. For databases, it officially supports SQLite and MySQL, but it can use other SQL databases as well, although they're not officially supported. All right, so this is something that people have been asking me or telling me all week. I love MunkiReport, or I want to get into it, but I don't want Munki. You don't need Munki for MunkiReport. You don't even need the Munki binaries, but you need the Munki libraries, mostly the Munki lib library. So if you get that on there, you can have MunkiReport on there and have it run its little pre and post flight scripts, and it'll send up all your information without having Munki installed. Now let's take a quick review. Now that we've had a quick review of what MunkiReport is, let's see what's new. Version 3 of MunkiReport has some big core changes. The first and maybe most notable is that it now requires PHP version 7, which is the version you want to upgrade to because it has a faster runtime engine, security enhancements, and features oriented for the future. And on top of that, PHP version 5 will be discontinued or end-of-lifed later on this year. Migrations and database table changes no longer run automatically like they did in version 2. You'll have to go to the database page in the admin drop-down tab to run them. This is a new page that we'll get into later. There are plans to make migrations automatic or more prominent, but there isn't time frame for that yet. Although upgrades from version 2 to 3 will still be a manual upgrade process. MunkiReport is now optimized and auto-loaded by Composer. For those of you unfamiliar with Composer, it is a dependency manager for PHP, and it allows MunkiReport to maintain a list of its dependencies and have them installed as needed. The web root has also changed to be the public folder within the MunkiReport folder. You want to change the folder on your web server serves out to be the public directory within it. A great amount of work was put in by Mawson of Australia to moving to a more feature-rich database connector called Illuminate. It allows for easier creation of tables, migrations, and database queries. And for those of you using MySQL, you want to update your configuration within config PHP to allow you to interact with the new Illuminate database backend. So basically what you had for config PHP for version 2, if you had MySQL or another SQL database, will not work with version 3 without reconfiguring it. So with all the new changes and features, let's see how we can upgrade to version 3 of MunkiReport from version 2. There aren't a lot of steps to upgrade to version 3, but there are some pitfalls. To prepare for those, back up your MunkiReport PHP folder and the database. This is very important in the event you have to revert back to where you were before the upgrade or in case something goes wrong. Your MunkiReport version 2 instance must be at least 2.12. If it's older than that, upgrade to 2.15.2. Have some clients check in and view a bunch of listings. This all allows for the older version 2 upgrades or database migrations to happen so that the migration to version 3 will be smooth. And don't forget to enable database migrations in config PHP for the version 2 database migrations to run. And as previously mentioned, you'll then have to upgrade PHP on the web server to PHP version 7. This process varies for different web servers, but is fairly easy in popular servers. There are many guides for many servers. Search and you'll likely find one for yours. And what's on screen will basically do it for most Debian-based Linux OSs, such as Ubuntu. And if you're starting up a brand new Munki report, here's where you start at. Just make sure you're running PHP version 7 on the web server. And then once you've upgraded to that, download the latest version of Munki report 3 from GitHub, set up its config PHP, and upload it to your web server. It's then time for the database migration. And here's that new database page under the admin tab for Munki report. Click on the big enticing update button and watch as the tables and data migrate from the version 2 table schema to the version 3. If this is a new Munki report installation, you'll still have to click on the update button to create the tables. I initially wanted the update button to like glow and blink, but Mawson was like, no, we can't have that. No, it's not the 90s anymore. I'm like, okay. Lastly, you want to create a new client package. The steps for this hasn't changed, so create it as you always have. You can crawl the install script right into Bash, but of course this isn't recommended because you're putting a script from the internet right into a root shell in Bash. It's great for testing, but you shouldn't use it in production. If you have an auto package set up to check your Munki report server for new versions, it'll automatically find and import into Munki the new version 3 package. Lastly, you can run that script or a variation of it to create the client package yourself and install it or import it into Munki. While Munki report can run on pretty much anything that has PHP 7, PHP 7.1 is the recommended version. PHP 7.0 and 7.2 may run with some slight bugs, but it should still run the core parts of Munki report just fine. For the best experience, MySQL database is recommended. Not only is it more powerful than the built-in SQLite database, it is easy to extend and can handle many transactions at once for busier installations. Version 5.7.7 of MySQL is the recommended version, or at least 5.7.7, as it has the proper support for indexing and collation of emojis and UTF-8 MB4 table collation. Of course, that is the magical golden path of upgrading. But as we all know, it rarely happens that way. So let's cover some of the common issues that may arise. You load up a client, all excited to see your new data, but you get this. Where's all my data? I have the awesome little picture and little tables, but no data. Don't worry, all your data is still there. Your web server may not be upgraded to PHP 7 or it isn't using the proper PHP installation on your web server. So go to the system status page and verify that you are using PHP 7. Another quick thing to check is if all the database migrations have run correctly. Without them running, the data will be blank. And if you're using PHP 7 and the migrations have run correctly, make sure you've set the FileVault Escrow encryption key. This really isn't a problem if you're upgrading from PHP 2 to 3, but it is somewhat a problem if you're upgrading from PHP 3 to 3 and you are rebuilding your config PHP from scratch. Of course, we have the infamous, super fun database migration errors. These are so much fun to fix. Again, your data isn't gone, but we'll have to fix the database or its tables for it to migrate. First thing, make sure you're upgrading from at least version 2.12 of Munki report. If you're not, roll back and upgrade to Munki report 2.15.2 and let it run its migrations. Then go through pretty much all the listings and it'll verify that all the migrations have run correctly. Next, make sure your database configuration is correct for version 3 if you're using MySQL. As previously mentioned, with the new Illuminate database backend, what you had for version 2 won't work with version 3. Lastly, check and change the table's collation. The collation of the table and its database must be UTF-8 MB4 Unicode CI or variation of UTF-8 MB4. This is to accommodate emojis within the table. If it isn't, you'll have to roll the table back with the error, change its collation manually before it'll migrate. And this is pretty much only a problem for MySQL databases, or older MySQL databases, and it commonly affects tables like fonts, because fonts has so many weird things in it. As a last resort, you can drop the stuck table to continue the migration. This will delete the data it contains, but the clients will usually repopulate it as they check in again. And you can always ask in the MunkiReport channel on MacAdmins about the error. We're always working to fix migration bugs and make the process as smooth as possible. Myself, Bachhoven, and Mawson, we all know all these fun database problems that we can almost always give you a little line of SQL to run on your database to fix it right up for you. This is what happens when Active Directory LDAP authentication doesn't work anymore. This is a really fun bug, or not really a bug, but like a fun problem that got me. And it's one that's easily solvable with Composer. Before we can use Composer, we need to download it from getcomposer.org. Composer is a PHP file that is run by the PHP executable through the command line. Download it to your MunkiReport PHP folder, then cd into the folder. We then have to run those two commands, or a variation of them, to update and install any missing PHP dependencies that MunkiReport requires. The next thing to check is that the PHP 7 LDAP module is installed and enabled. You can check that in the Show System Status page by clicking Extended PHP Info and checking that the LDAP support is enabled under the LDAP heading. If it is, then it's time to download and set up AD LDAP 2. Run those two commands after you've installed Composer and cd'd into your MunkiReport PHP folder, and it'll download and set up the AD LDAP 2 package into MunkiReport for you. Of course, this is the best web page to ever get when you're browsing for something. Where's my MunkiReport? With good news, it's all still there. It's just kind of moved around a bit. MunkiReport is now served out of the public folder within the MunkiReport directory. This was done to enhance security and centralize served content. There are a few ways to fix this. One option is to move the entire MunkiReport PHP folder and then make a symlink from the public folder within it to where the MunkiReport folder used to be. Using this method, you move the MunkiReport PHP files out of the web root and keep the same URL so that you need to reconfigure your clients. You can also change what the folder your web server serves. Change it to be the public folder within the MunkiReport PHP folder. You can then use a rewrite function to change the new URL to the old, or just change the alias of what your web server serves. If you don't have that much control over your web server, you can update the clients to use the new URL, and a good time to reconfigure the client's URL would be when you push out a new MunkiReport client package. All right, modules. At its core, MunkiReport is composed of over 55 modules that report on nearly everything imaginable. With MunkiReport, you don't need to enable all of its many modules, but only the ones for things you want to collect data on. You can selectively enable and disable modules in config PHP to only collect the data you want to see or have. Back in October 2013, when MunkiReport version 2.0 was released, there were only 5 modules. It didn't report on much, but it covered the very basics. Over the releases, many more modules have been written and added to MunkiReport throughout contributions from people all over the world. I almost said contributions from viewers like you. Some people write one module, others write many modules. With nearly every release having a new module, you know it'll only get better as new versions are released. The modules collect many things about the Macs Munki report on, and the modules typically support older OSs, but some only work on the current Apple-supported versions. I personally try to get my modules to work all the way back to Lion for those crazy people who still have a Lion machine in your fleet. And of course, as bugs appear with new releases of Mac OS, bug fixes are pushed out to keep the modules working. With version 3, there are 9 new exciting modules that have been developed by the module making team. And with many more in the pipeline, as pull requests that you can test out and leave feedback for on GitHub. All right, so here are the 9 new or rewritten modules and that are included with MunkiReport. Let's take a closer look at them. We have the Munki Facts module, which is also known as the Munki Conditions module. It is a module that collects the results of Munki Facts that run on the client. Munki Facts are admin-provided conditions that allow Munki to determine if something should be installed, updated, or removed. They can also generate results that are stored within a file on the client Mac. The module reads that file and displays the data in a searchable, sortable grid within MunkiReport. This module provides similar functionality to Jam's extended attributes. The usage stats module shows data similar to what you'd see at the bottom of Activity Monitor. Things like current network and disk utility, like how much data has been transferred since we last booted, CPU, GPU information, thermal pressure, so you can identify those Macs are overheating. Kernel boot flags, such as verbose boot, safe mode boot, and it's all showed within the client tab. But because of limitations with Mac OS, this module does require 10.10 Yosemite or higher. But of course, all of you should be at least running 12.12, I would hope. The applications module was built. It builds on the inventory module, already include MunkiReport. It shows more in-depth information about the apps on the Mac, such as developer assigning ID, if it is a 32-bit or 64-bit app, which is great for finding those hidden 32-bit apps that you may still have floating around. How it was installed, such as from the App Store, an identified developer, or if it's a stock Mac OS app. And when the when the app bundle was last updated. The DetectX module shows information about the results of a DetectX run on your endpoints. It collects data such as the serial number it is installed with, any reported issues, and the current status. It only report data with a DetectX Pro or management license. It does not run DetectX, but instead collects data using an admin-provided launch daemon. There is a sample launch daemon provided within the README file within the modules directory. And that file would have to be installed on the clients before this module would start working on the clients. DevTools reports on the development environment on the Macs within your fleet. It lists out the different SDKs and what versions are installed and available to the tools within it. In addition to SDKs, it reports on versions of S-code and command line tools. Our first rewritten module is the FileVault Escrow module. It was completely rewritten to act as a destination server for Crypt2's remote private key escrowing. And it no longer stores private keys as plain text within the database, which is great. It now encrypts all the database before it is saved into the database. The second rewritten module is the caching module. As many of you know, with server apps impending doom, the caching server was removed out of it and into the sharing preference pane starting with High Sierra. Along with moving into the main OS, Apple changed how the metrics data is stored on the client. This module was updated to gather the new metrics data and includes many new widgets, a second listing, and a redesigned client tab. It's also a great module to install on non-caching server Macs because it is able to report on what caching server they can see and pull data from. This way we can all know if Jane's iMac down in accounting can see the caching server we have in our data closet. The Sophos module is for providing information about the Sophos antivirus installed on clients. It was written for Sophos Central, but should work for Sophos Business too. It collects data such as last scan time, detected malware, Sophos engine version, and virus definitions version. The supported OS module is a simple yet powerful one. It has one job, to list out the current highest supported OS that your client can run. The checks happen server-side, with a current OS version being sent to MunkiReport server. This is wonderful for locating and decommissioning older Macs that can no longer run the updated version of Mac OS. Of course, with Mac OS 10.14, Apple decommissioned good 3 years worth of Macs. So MunkiReport version 3 has a few notable changes for its modules' inner workings. Because of this, you can't use version 2 modules in version 3 without some changes. The first is that migrations have been redesigned to work with the Illuminate database backend and are now a required part of the module. Modules no longer define and create the table, although while there's still a table framework at the start of the model, it no longer contains data type settings, indexes, or table create functions. All this has been moved into the module migration. And the namespace has also changed slightly. So let's take a look at how that has changed. The first namespace change is that external libraries are now called at the start, as seen as CF property list library. This library is used to process incoming XML and property list files. And then the next is that little backslash before model. If it isn't there, your module won't work correctly. That silly little backslash has cost me many good hours trying to figure out why my modules stopped working. There are 3 types of module migrations with version 3. The first is included with all modules that were part of version 2. These modules rename the version 2 table, create a new version 3 table, copy the data over, then drop the renamed version 2 table. If you're submitting a new module to MunkiReport, you don't need to create one of these types of modules or migrations. Table update migrations are the closest to what version 2's migrations were, except they run more reliably, have a better design, and have a better design. These migrations can be a part of any module, and they can do things such as make columns, change data types, or perform SQL statements on the data within the table. The last type of migration are the new module migrations. They create the table, its column, and indexes. They must be a part of every new module included with MunkiReport. Otherwise, the table would never be created, the data would never be saved, and everyone would be wondering, where's my data? All right, so here we have the new module migration from Munki Facts. In the up function, we make a new capsule, which is what Illuminate calls its what am I going to do thing. That creates the Munki Facts module, or creates the Munki Facts table, the 4 columns, and 2 indexes. The data type is defined with increments for ID, string for serial number and fact key, and text for fact value. Indexes are created at the end of the up function. And remember, texts and blobs cannot be indexed, and you cannot have more than 64 indexes per table. Yes, there are some modules that have more than 64 columns, namely smart stats and fans and temps. They're pushing 200, 500. The down function is run if the table is rolled back. Because this is a new module migration, the table is simply dropped if it exists. So how do we make new modules and other changes? First, set up a development environment, unless you like to live dangerously and develop on production. After that, do as the kitten says and change things, see what happens. You can't break things too badly in a development environment. At worst, you'd feed garbage into a table or accidentally drop a table. If that happens or you need some pointers, ask in Slack. There's almost always someone that can help. Don't forget, because of its open source nature, there are many examples already included with MunkiReport. You can start by copying a module that works with similar data or presents its data in a similar way. Then change things throughout the different module parts to slowly morph it into a new module. This is pretty much what I do when I start creating a new module myself. I find, okay, how do I get this data? What does it look like? Then I find what module works with similar data, and I just pretty much do find and replace. And I put in my test instance and see if it loads. Sometimes it loads, and other times it's just like, nope, not gonna load today. Then you just go through and find out what you missed. Then when you've got it all working as you want, submit it as a pull request on GitHub to the work in progress branch of MunkiReport. It's very important you send it to the work in progress branch, otherwise Bachhoven will tell you resubmit it to the work in progress branch. Don't forget, he also loves new pull requests. He absolutely loves them, especially for new modules, because he knows that every module helps make MunkiReport an even better, more comprehensive reporting tool. If the whole new module isn't really something that you want to start off with, or you just want to tweak bits of the interface, you can do so by loading and using custom CSS and JavaScript. The custom files must be accessible by your web browser. A good place to store them is in the public folder in the MunkiReport PHP folder. That way they are served by your web server along with the rest of your MunkiReport files. Those are the two config options that you use to point your browser to your custom CSS and config. And what you have there are the default options for if it was inside your public folder. To create a new CSS, you basically load up the style view editor within your browser. You can tweak element tags, you can change colors, hide items, and then when you have it all working as you want, you can save the changes right from your browser into a custom CSS for MunkiReport. Just stick it in your public folder and hit refresh. The process is a bit more difficult and for custom JavaScript, but it's much more powerful. You can use it to change how tables show their data, what functions are run, or changing the overall UI. Some of these examples for these changes can be found within the MunkiReport wiki on GitHub. There's a whole bunch of cool ones, such as I want to show all my data in the listings, not just one page at a time. Everything all at once. All right, so who here enrolls or manages their Macs with Jamf? One person. All right. This module's for you then. Well, you, good sir, would be very excited, hopefully, to know that I've been working on a Jamf module over the past month. It has a bunch of built-in widgets, a listing with commonly used data points, and a very comprehensive client tab, and an admin page. All right, so the Jamf client tab is a complex, responsive one with many tabs within the main MunkiReport client tab that closely resembles the look and feel of the client data view within Jamf. The different tabs within the tabs show sections of data in a familiar way that if you're used to using Jamf, it should be pretty much the same. And if you can find it in the Jamf web view for the client, you can find it in the Jamf client view or Jamf client tab on MunkiReport. So let's take a quick look at how it works. Using the power of Magic Live demos, we can see. So here we have the client tab of a standard demo Mac. We can see all sorts of fun information. Now, all this information is collected by Jamf, and MunkiReport pulls it from the JSS server. The client doesn't talk to the JSS server through MunkiReport. It basically tells MunkiReport, hey, pull this information about me, and the server goes out and pulls it from JSS. We have things such as IP address, and we can look at whatever this one is, security. We can look at different applications, and there's all sorts of applications there. Here are the installed printers, and we even got, well, those are supposed to be extended attributes, not extension attributes. I need to change that one. And under the management tab, we have pending commands, failed commands. We can look at our different computer groups so we can see what groups it's in. And we also have our history tab, and everything is all right in there. We also have two fun little buttons up at the top. Our first button, you click on it, and it will manually tell the MunkiReport server, pull in new information. You don't need a client to tell it to do it. You just click the button, and it pulls it right in. And the second one launches a new tab or window and takes you directly to that Mac within Jamf. So you can edit things about that Mac, such as send a blank push, wipe the device, reconfigure its information, all just from clicking right out of MunkiReport. All right, so the Jamf module has 12 built-in widgets. We have color block, pie charts, and listing-based widgets, and they're all grouped within the Jamf report page. Because of the sheer amount of data that the Jamf module pulls in from MunkiReport, it's easy to create many more widgets. If there's one you'd like to see, make a feature enhancement request, or comment on the Jamf pull, comment on the Jamf module pull request. And using all this new data that MunkiReport is pulling in from Jamf, you can create a whole bunch of really awesome things using the two combined data sets. So you can have things such as, I want to find all my Macs that are having thermal problems but are within this building and within this smart group. You write an SQL statement for that, and you can get those 3 or 4 Macs. The Jamf module also brings support for modular admin pages to the admin dropdown tab. The Jamf modules page contains information about how Jamf is set up in MunkiReport, if it can reach your JSS, and a very cool little button that triggers MunkiReport to basically query your JSS about every serial number within your MunkiReport, along with a little progress bar showing the progress of all the Macs as data is pulled from Jamf. In my testing, it takes pretty much about 2 minutes for 50 Macs on like a moderately used JSS, and it'll just sit there and chug on through, and it'll let you know when it's done. And I'll be adding admin pages of similar functionality for GSX and Deploy Studio modules in the future. So, in review, we've covered what MunkiReport is and does, followed by what's new with version 3 of MunkiReport, how to upgrade to version 3, some troubleshooting for common upgrade problems. We've explored the 9 new modules and how the modules have been changed between version 2 and 3. Lastly, we got to preview the new Jamf module that will be available later on this week as a pull request on MunkiReport's GitHub. All right, that's the end. Does anyone have any questions? Oh my, that couldn't have been that good of a presentation. Version 4 will be out by the end of the century.
All right, so I've set up MunkiReport in an environment customized to my environment, CentOS, used Nginx. Issues I ran into, and it's not, I guess, it's on the fringe of what you covered, is, trying to get PHP and some of the other services configured from, there's lots of good blog posts about configuring on this OS or with Apache or with whatever. Is there a preferred server setup for that? I know there's some just basic coverage on there for, or articles on there, but do you guys have other than PHP? Because I know with getting Nginx to work with PHP, but basically what I did, I get the whole way through, got it set up and working, exported my bash history. I'm going to start over because I feel like some of the stuff you have to do in there, depending on the source, it's a little questionable.
Yep. Well, we do not recommend server app anymore. We've never really recommended that. Pretty much anything that's Linux-based. I myself use and test it with Ubuntu.
Okay.
So 16.4, although that support for that I think is ending 2-ish 1 years or something like that. So go with like 18.4, and I think that comes pre-installed with PHP 7. Some versions of 16.4 don't have PHP 7, some do, so it's kind of hit or miss with that. But I would suggest Ubuntu 18.4 or 16.4, mostly because it's widely used and it's pretty easy just to get it up and running.
So you were talking about getting people to help with the testing of new releases and such. One question I had about that was, can we have a client report to multiple MunkiReport servers so that we can still have it reporting the data to the master system and then also have test data as well?
Yes. It's a bit tricky, but you can certainly have it. You would basically have to create like your own launch daemon that would change what the MunkiReport server sends to, because it's literally just a URL within the config file within library preferences. It's called MunkiReport plist. You just change it between like your development and your production environments. So you can have it change from production to test, have it run the pre and post-flight scripts, then change it back to production. The only thing you have to watch out for is that it doesn't conflict with Munki doing its runs. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure how to get around that one, but it's something you can definitely tinker with, and but it is possible.
So if you just have a script that changes that, let's say, once every day, and then Munki would run, and then one day it would send it to one server, one day to the other, that would work?
That would certainly work, and it would have to run as a root launch daemon because it's in a root folder. But yeah, just switching up between those two, and you're done.
Awesome.
It'll work.
So it seems like there are now a lot of options when it comes to pulling inventories from your fleet. Like there were several sessions on OS Query. I know that one of the vendors here has a product that caters to that. I guess two questions. Why do I need such granular insight into my fleet? And if so, what features would I be looking for if I were to choose one of those solutions?
Well, granular information, I just like data. So it's all like your own preference. Like I really want to know what Margaret's CPU is running at way over in accounting. Like, is it using 5.7 watts or is it using 4.7 watts? I want to know that stupidly granular information. You can make tons of cool graphs with it. You can dump an Elastic Report, Kibana for all those fun things. Why you would want MunkiReport over other things? It comes pre-configured with cool graphs and widgets. Other things like Jamf, for my testing, it doesn't really come with many widgets or graphs. You kind of have to create your own. Whereas MunkiReport, you hit F5 when you first install it and you see all this cool information right then and there.
Since OS Query is kind of the thing that people are talking about, is it talks to adding that to MunkiReport?
I have looked into adding OS Query into there, either as a replacement for the built-in scripts with the MunkiReport that pretty much gathers the same things, or just using it to gather as almost like a shortcut instead of writing my own things. I've looked into it. I've thought about it. I just haven't gone into it. That might be something for MunkiReport version 4. I'm not really sure.
End of the century, right?
By the end of the century. Don't hold me accountable for that one. We may not get there. No one else? Oh, there's one. There's two.
Question, when you go, let's say from 3.2.1 to 3.2.2, is there sort of a method that you would suggest for doing so that would be kind of easy to maintain?
The method I do is you basically find your MunkiReport PHP file, make a zip file of it, put that somewhere safe, and then you take your config file, put that into freshly downloaded, like from GitHub, the latest MunkiReport release, put your config file in there and just overwrite it on the web server, and then off it goes.
Okay.
But it's very important to always check for database migrations after you've done that, because MunkiReport now, as of now, will not pop up and say you have pending database migrations, when it will not do them automatically. Instead, it'll just kind of limp along in a somewhat hobbled fashion until you realize this widget doesn't work, or my page doesn't load anymore. What's wrong? And then, oh, I'm missing all my database migrations.
So I apologize if this is documented somewhere. I haven't looked in a really long time. But what type of authentication for users does MunkiReport support these days?
Okay, MunkiReport supports local-based authentication, so you have the password hash within the config file. It supports Active Directory LDAP, and it supports SAML authentication. That one is a bit tricky, and I'm not entirely sure which providers it works with. And I think there's one more, which I'm forgetting. No, it may only be those three. But the SAML authentication is a newer thing with, I believe, version 3 or 2.15.
Okay.
Back to his question about the update. He said save the PHP config file. Does that change that often, that we need to look into it when a new upgrade comes up?
It usually doesn't change. Occasionally with like new modules, such as with the Jamf module, there will be like a new Jamf section where you can put in like your API username, password, server, and how you want it to run. But for the most cases, you can just go from one version to the next. But going from version 2 to 3, it is recommended to like go through there and like compare the two and like make changes. And oftentimes you may miss some things in there because like the fonts module, you can set it so it doesn't collect all those bazillion system fonts. But by default, it does collect them. So if you're looking through the config default, you'll see, oh hey, I can turn this off so it doesn't collect all those thousands of system fonts, and then it won't collect those anymore.
Is that referenced or documented when you guys do change that, so like, we know to look for it?
No, but I will certainly let Bakova know, like, hey, we should probably like tell people like, hey, things have changed. But of course, you can always go into GitHub, navigate, or just basically click on the config default and see and click show history, and like you'll see line by line of what's been changed and what's been added. That way you can know, all right, this has changed, what is it? And you can also change it so that I want to see everything new from version 3.0 to 3.3, and you will see what's been changed between those versions. No one else? All right, well, if there's no more questions, that would be the end of the presentation.